There we go. How you doing, Juan?
You're muted, buddy.
Or are you still connecting? Got any questions, Juan? I see that I know you were the first one out of the gate and the first one through the gate with the with this piece. Did you have any questions that might not be answered in the homework itself?
Hi guys.
How's it going?
Good.
So you got the two of us right now all to yourself. So like I said, I know you got your part 5 done, and I believe you got all the other 4 parts done as well. Any questions, comments? Masood's coming in.
Oh, nice.
You want to
That
have
was
the
pretty.
How you doing, Masood? They glad you joined. I think Juan was beginning to feel that there was the two of us to gang up on him. So you know he has backup now.
Yeah, well, that was pretty fun. I like part 5. That's the kind of practice that I like. I wish we could have even more.
Okay, keep that in mind, because you know we're constantly trying to evolve, you know, the simulation and the course in general. Just in the little over a year I've been here, it's evolved quite a bit, and of course we're always trying to improve it. So definitely, I'll make some comments, and then you know when you have any surveys, you know, by all means, please put that in, because comments from the students carry weight.
Awesome. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. Any educational institution worth its salt, be it, you know, boot camp, university, weekend training, if they're worth their salt, they listen to the students. They might not be able to fix it for you, but they'll try to fix it for the future at least. And when especially when I was teaching the university for many years, I would my teaching evolved according to feedback from the students. So definitely put that in. So let's see. This one. Yes. Forgot to reassign it. Masood, you'll notice I sent the assignment back to you. I see you've got the service running, but it doesn't look like your virtual host is set up correctly. There we go. I forgot to.
I think I'm gonna fix that.
Okay. And I see one here that I forgot to assign back
But
to
my,
the person.
my question is, if my virtual host is not set up correctly, it's not meant to be running, right?
It would not be a separate host. A virtual host within the web server says, "Trust me, I really am this other guy." It's almost a form of impersonation, which allows a web server to support multiple domains, multiple servers, multiple applications in a contained way to allow take better advantage of resources. Because if web server doesn't do much, like my Nagio server back here, it's running on an internal web server, and it spends most of its time snoozing. So I would be able to run, 3 or 4 other applications under different host names for convenience, but they're all actually running on the same physical hardware, basically, or the same virtual hardware for that matter.
I got a question. I tried the IP addresses. I put in the web browser. It didn't come out, so I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, you won't be able to do it from outside. You'll have to install links, which should be in the assignment instructions. Let me make sure. Let's see. Yeah, links. Item 4, section B says to install the links browser. And then from the command line, you would then be able to hit against it. So you'll just get text back. Of course, no fancy graphics or anything, but at least the text coming back would have the information that is expected. Because, for example, let's see, do I have it installed here? I do. I don't think I do. Let me double check. No, I do have it installed, but the web server is not running. So, but if you look, I'll show you. Show screen. There you go. So you should see my screen now.
Yeah.
And so if it decides to stop being busy, there we go. Now, well, here it's using curl, but links would do the same thing. You would get something that would be text-based. No, you don't belong over here. Go away. Or you could even run this curl command and see what the output, see your output basically. But yeah, back in the olden days before lots of fancy GUIs, everything on the web was text-based. Not near as exciting as it is now. So, for example, so much like we see in the web page in the Jupyter notebook. This curl says to be chatty, of course. This is, of course, on my machine here. And your web page would then come out, just as text like we see down here at the bottom. And so basically what we're, and of course, if you look at it, if you read the output when you run that Jupyter notebook, you can see what's going on. It's using the HTTP, in this case, 1.1 protocol with a 200, which is, I found what you're looking for and I'm going to give it to you. Some other information, date, time, server, what have you, content length, how many bytes are coming back across, what kind of content is coming back, HTML, and then, of course, our output from the web page. As you can see on this machine, it doesn't have a very fancy homepage because everything is Nagios requires a login. My Jira requires a login. A couple other things require a login. So not Jira, GitLab. So those would just simply throw an error if you try to connect to them. But in your case, for this assignment, you should get something that would basically say, basically host name, IP address, and kernel version.
Where we might be able to find them. Here's what you got.
Does that help?
All about Zachary. And he's saying it. My guess is too, though, the parent man and baby. Make sure he's all right.
Sounds like some stuff in the background there.
Yes, me.
Okay. That's better than one disaster call I was on. Person was buying insurance and he forgot to mute his phone. Or the late night upgrade where the guy fell asleep and was snoring on the phone. That was funny. Okay, does that help clarify what's expected as far as the output? Our mouse. And I see we got someone else joining. Any questions on the assignment?
I just had a newborn that kept me a little bit busy, but I'll submit it by Friday.
Okay,
How are you?
doing all right. Yeah, probably better than you at the moment.
Sort of.
We're definitely more rested than you are.
Man, but
But congratulations.
thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So both mother and child are home safe and sound and healthy.
Actually, we're still at the hospital. I'm at the hospital right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
like real newborn, man.
it's a
Mm,
brand new baby.
congratulations.
Thank you, Juan. How are you?
Congrats.
Good.
All right, awesome.
Yeah, glad
Finished
to see you
your
here.
assignment already.
Well, when she's up to it, give our best to your wife as well.
Thank you. Mhm.
But did you have any questions on the assignment other than lack of sleep?
No. Actually, um, okay, 1 second. 1 second, I'll be right back.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's see here.
Did they let you
Oh.
guys use Linux as your desktop at the bank, or is it only Windows as that's
Only Windows.
That's what I thought. That's how it usually is. Or Mac. Do they allow Macs or no?
Not that I've seen. The standard issue is a Windows machine. Surprisingly, it's now touchscreen.
Yeah. Us developers, we can use Macs, but that's about it. That's State Farm.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so every time I need to host a virtual, do I have to always change the ownership? Do I have to always change the ownership? Okay, so basically, what I'm trying to understand here is that I have to change, based on my research, right? I have to change the ownership on Apache, I believe. The user, Apache user and the group, and then trying to bring it to the directory.
A lot of times the base install will, depending on whether you're Fedora or Ubuntu, a Debian, it will be either www data or Apache. And unless there's a security reason, you leave that alone. And the default directories usually are set up in the installation correctly. Now, if you go in as root and edit a file or create a new file in particular, that file's created as root. It's a good idea to change it to the appropriate user, like I said, Debian's case, www data, as well as group. But as long as it's readable, the web server can still serve it. It just doesn't have ownership of it.
Okay, so it needs to be readable. That's the main important thing.
That's the big one. If the web server user cannot read the file, you'll get the dreaded 404 error that basically says, yeah, you asked for something, but I can't give it to you.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, thank you. Yeah,
You're welcome.
that's all.
So what I could be doing in the meantime.
Well, in your case, since you do have everything done, what I would recommend is do some more reading on especially since we're just talking about web servers, on what potentially could be done with virtual hosts. If you time permits, Engine X is another web server that might be of some interest as well. You'll see that in a lot of large web farms, a lot of times as a front end. Just kind of, get familiar with what it is, not necessarily, installing and configuring it. It can be a bit of a beast, but that's where the power comes from. But just become familiar with what it's capable of doing. And of course, with web servers, which we don't cover in this class or even touch on the assignments, there are application servers that could be behind this. In particular, your the Java engines. I'm drawing a blank. WebSphere, there we go. That's one of them. You could potentially do a little reading on that just to get a feel for what that is, and of course other services that would be of a similar in a setup in a similar vein like we're looking at here, with for example, databases. What databases are out there and what are they good for? Don't necessarily need to become an expert at all of these, just kind of read up on them and kind of be familiar with them. So someone says, so what do you know about databases? Well, there's two primary categories of databases. Installation is basically similar, that kind of thing.
Interesting. Yeah, I know that's my weakest point is networking and databases. I know relatively little. I know a little bit more about networking with this class,
Okay.
but I know like very little about databases. I mean, my wife, remember I told you that she was studying web development with Python.
Yeah.
She knows Postgres, and she wants to tell me also she know MySQL. She just told me MySQL.
Yeah. Keep you
Yeah.
honest. Huh?
Yeah, and yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you, as a systems engineer, generally you don't have to be an expert at the database, just how to get it installed, how to get it started, where the logs are, where the error, where you would look for errors. That's going to be some of your first important things. If you learn a little bit more about databases, as far as creating databases, creating the users, because in all databases, permissioning is a very key item. And of course, users and databases are separate from users in Linux, generally speaking. And there's a whole different type of provisioning that goes on there. For example, with MySQL, that's the one I'm most familiar with. You can have read permission, you can have database create, database drop, modify. For example, when I was back at Zix, my normal user had read access to everything, but I couldn't modify data. I couldn't create tables. I couldn't drop tables. If I needed to do that type of work, then I became the super user, which allowed me to get into the database directly as MySQL, Postgres, or Oracle as that user. And then I could, but that way it kept the number of users that had that level of permission to a minimum. and the number of people who had access to it were either the DBAs who could get direct access, or someone who, like myself, was in systems integration, that we had to become root. Of course, that leaves log entries behind unless you're doing something nefarious and trying to cover your tracks. But that's why we also go through we go through background checks and audits and all of that. So you don't need to become an expert at SQL, but if you know how to get it installed, get it running, make sure it's running, that's a good first step. You have any different thoughts there, Nick?
What was that?
I said, do you have any different thoughts on that statement?
On DBs? No.
Yeah.
No, mostly all I've used is Postgres. Well, that's not entirely true. There is some like Arial, which is a proprietary that QRadar uses. I did a lot of Arial database stuff, but I mean, that's the only place I've ever seen that.
But there you're starting to go down more specialty type things too.
Yeah, there are some databases that some companies have purchased and they use them in a product or something like that. I mean, so SQL and those variants are going to be the most run-of-the-mill ones.
Yeah. So if you want to learn SQL one, pick your wife's brains. And there's a number of good MySQL tutorials out on the web if you do decide you want to learn more about it.
Yeah.
You can, and MySQL can be installed on Windows. I'm assuming you have a Windows desktop.
Yeah.
So you can install MySQL on Windows, install the MySQL workbench, and then you can practice, with MySQL. And there's some databases that you can download out there to load for practice. I'd have to look them up though. My wife was looking at some a while back, but I'm sure your wife may have some pointers for you. And of course, in the broader sense, as a systems engineer, and I think I've mentioned this, learning more about Bash would be very useful. If you're looking at other scripting languages, I would lean toward Python these days, but Perl would not be a bad choice. Not necessarily to the point of becoming a programmer. It's kind of a different skill set, but at least enough to be able to do the basics and be able to read the code that may break out in production, that you've got to go figure out what broke, so you can go talk to the developers and say, this is what broke, I need you to fix it.
It's nice. Yeah, I probably use her material that she used to learn.
Yeah.
She had very good memory. She still remembers everything.
Ah, good. Sounds like my wife.
Yeah. I'm the guy with the bad memory.
I hear you. Yeah, my wife went to med school, so she's got a good memory.
Oh yeah, sure. Wow.
Yeah. Not everyone in med school is necessarily a genius, but they all have phenomenal memories because, when you're doing, especially when you get into your internships and your residencies, you can't go look things up. It's, so we have these symptoms. What could it be? Go. Whereas in systems engineering, we have the advantage of, we have these problems. Let me hit Google. Now, the Windows machine one, if you want to get really crazy, you could download the Debian DVD from Debian.org. Download a VirtualBox. This is all getting outside of what support's going to be able to help you with, though. So, keep that in mind. That you could then install VirtualBox and create your own virtual machine to get some more direct hands-on practice at home if you'd like.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if you're stuck in the job, like in the real job, what are you gonna do? You're gonna ask your supervisor, or what you gonna do? If you don't know, like you got some assignment you're supposed to do, and then you're stuck somewhere.
You're stuck? Well, of course, your teammates are always a good starting point.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very good chance that they may have seen it. Plus, there's probably more of them than there are of your manager. Asking your manager for direction is never a bad idea. The question will be, depending on the environment, is your manager as technical as you? So he may not be able to give a whole lot of direction other than some recommendations or go talk to this person.
That's what I was about to bring up, John, was that some managers are not technical. They are just managers, right?
Yeah, because my current manager used to be very technical, but he spent way too many years managing way too many people, and it kind of got rusty. And so, yeah, he's very much his name's also John. I'll say, hey, John, what about this? He goes, well, I used to know how to do that. Talk to Ken. So you may run into that too. So, but if he's a good manager, even if he's not technical, if he's taking good care of you, that's the real key there.
Okay.
And there's sometimes, and the time will come where the answer will be, you have a great question. None of us have a clue. Let us know when you find out. And that's when you go, oh, geez. But then that's also, where you start acquiring the reputation and the skill set to start commanding, better jobs, better salaries, because you're able to go off on your own and figure things out. There's a number of people who are far more expert than I am in specifics. The guy I mentioned, Ken, you could ask him about the Linux kernel and he could talk your ear off for the next 5 weeks. But you get much outside of that, and he's not very good. And back when I was a consultant, my claim to fame was I knew a little of everything. I was the glue. So start looking at, do you want to be more the glue, or do you want to be more the expert?
You like the new GNOME desktop? God, can't stand it.
No,
I
hell no.
cannot stand it.
Well,
It's so bad.
For me, I've used so many different ones down through the years, and every company has their own, depending what version they've decided to install. I spend most of my time at the command line anyway.
Yeah.
So I just need to know, how can I find a terminal window? That's all I need to know.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't see it I don't see it as an improvement from some of the older versions. But again, I'm at the command line so much, it's negligible to me.
Yeah.
I mean, just here on my desk, I've got two different versions of GNOME, Mac, Windows, and command line. So.
Yeah.
You got a few minutes yet, if you got any other questions. Well, we got a couple minutes left. You have any questions? You know, if you think you're good to go, I don't see a problem with things dropping, you starting to drop off if you feel that your time would be better quit somewhere else. And again, last chance for questions here. Or if you used to party hard in your early days, last call. think I have a monitor that's attempting to fail over here.
That's never good.
No, but considering it's a little bit older monitor, this is an old Mac. They may be getting toward the end of their lifespan.
Macs usually last for quite a while too.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got my MacBook in the middle, two of the old heavy glass retina screens on either side, a notebook on top with two screens up here. So I've got, and that's not counting our work stuff that's off to the side. So I've got a lot of glass to look at. But it does make for a nice work environment.
It's bright, I bet.
And with considering how fair skinned I am, it's about the only way I'm going to get a tan.
Where are you located at again? Where are you located, John?
All righty. So there doesn't seem to be any questions. We'll wrap it up here for tonight. We will have part 6 and 7 triggering off next week. It'll be NFS server and we'll talk about it on Tuesday. So everybody have a weekend. Hope we get everything wrapped up here and back to our day again. Congratulations. I hope you somehow manage to get some sleep.
Have a good one, everyone.
Have a good
Have a
one.
good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank,
And a good weekend.
right.
Bye, guys.